The unmistakable sound of The Association from 1967, Never My Love, the group's third #1 single. The story of The Association is packed with all kinds of twists and turns and unusual happenings, and very soon we'll get to read all about it from a first-hand source. Russ Giguere of The Association joins us. His book, written with Ashley Wren Collins, is called Along Comes The Association. It'll be released this coming Tuesday. We just had Super Tuesday, so I guess now we're going to have Psychedelic Tuesday to look forward to. Russ, welcome to the show.
Bless you, my son. Thank you.
You know, it's good to have you here, and this book, I want to say, and I could be wrong in this, that it's been a long time coming, or has it not been a long time coming?
It's been years in the making.
Yeah.
We've worked at this for a long time, yeah.
The intention, I guess, was to set the record straight about the association?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I've read so much gibberish and things that just weren't true about the group that I actually started this before 9/11. And 9/11 sort of interrupted my train of thought. I was about 45 pages in. I get all stories and stuff, and 9/11 happened. I got sort of distracted. And then my lady died, I think 2012, and shortly after that I thought I'd take a look at the pages, and I did, and there was some good stories there. I thought, well, I'll get my stuff together and put together a book.
Well, that's some pretty heavy stuff, so I can understand the delay. I'd like to go back to the very beginning of the association, before there was a group called the Association, and there was a group called the Men.
Well, when I joined the Men, the lead singer for the Men was leaving the Men to join the Christies, to take Barry Maguire's place. And Terry Kirkman and Jules Alexander came to me and asked if I'd join the Men. Now, I had initially, when the Men formed, I was there that night at the Troubadour when they took a bunch of names, and I thought, just too big. I just don't want to be part of it. But I said, I haven't really heard you guys. Let me hear you. So I went out to a rehearsal hall. They did a few songs for me. I was really impressed. Several of the guys in the band hadn't heard me, so I did a few tunes for them, joined the band. A few months later, we were rehearsing. A guy called a break. We took a break, and this guy started questioning Terry, saying, you said to do this, you were going to talk to this person, you were going to do this. And I didn't really understand what was going on. And so I just sort of sat there in silence. And then all of a sudden, Jules stood up and said, I'm really tired of this bullshit. I just want to make music. I'm out of here. And he walked out the door. And so I said, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I got to go with Jules. I walked out. Ted stood up. Brian stood up. A guy named Bob Page, who was later replaced with Jimmy Hester, stood up. Terry stood up. And then as he was walking out, said, you just lost your band. And we met out on the street. We picked a name. We started rehearsing the next day as the Association.
There's a genre of music now that people put the Association in. It didn't exist at the time, but nowadays, rock music fans will classify the Association as sunshine pop.
Which I think is, you sent shivers down my spine. Right. I just hate that term. It has nothing to do with our music. I mean, we did good art, and it certainly wasn't sunshine pop by any stretch of anyone's imagination. Anyone who has a grain of sense has heard our singles, our albums. We just did good art. Whatever it was, it was definitely in rock and roll pop.
Right, but there was a heavy folk.
There was heavy jazz, there was classical, there was influence of everything except sunshine pop. I wouldn't even drink sunshine pop. I mean, that has always enraged me. Yeah. It has always bothered me. It sounds like something that a disc jockey came up with that didn't know what else to call us. I just...
Well, I didn't hear it until maybe the 90s. I started hearing that term, and I was like, where did this come from?
It was true. You shouldn't have heard it.
So let's talk a little bit about the Monterey Pop Festival, 1967. You guys open the show, and you have the best seat in the house. You get to see the rest of the performers over the next 3 days.
Yep, we were on the road a great deal. In those years, we were on the road hundreds of days a year. And usually we didn't even get to see the acts that we were playing with. Because we'd finished our show, we'd pack up and start moving already.
Right.
With Monterey, we stayed all 3 days and all 3 nights. And saw just about every band there. It was great. It was great for us, and some of the bands we had seen before. The Who had opened several of our shows.
Right.
I remember the first time Terry and I were standing next to these bleachers, and we were watching the show. We loved their music. You know, the Who always just did such magnificent music. And we had never seen their show, and all of a sudden they start doing this thing at the end. The guy's jamming his guitar in the amplifier, and they're kicking over the drum. And Terry looks at me and says, "How the hell are we going to follow that?" I said, "No problem. They do what they do. We do what we do." And we got a standing ovation, and it was a great show. We did actually a bunch of shows with them opening the show, and it worked out quite nicely.
And you found the secret that maybe some of those gigantic amps that they were destroying weren't exactly on the level.
We learned, some of the ones on top that he put his guitar through didn't even have speakers in them. They had rolls of speaker cloth that after a show they just replaced the speaker cloth. I consider it great showbiz.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was one. I thought it was a great show, one of the best I've ever seen. And they did some of the best music I ever heard.
Hendrix, of course, came out and did kind of a similar type of thing, but it was more of a ritualistic.
Well, it was the thing about Hendrix. I met Hendrix during the first food break. I was in line with Jimi Hendrix. I had never heard of him. I didn't know what he did. We just talked and exchanged names and ate food. And then I saw him play, and I was really just blown away. It was magnificent. I was down in the orchestra pit right in front of the stage. I was only about 20 feet away from him. It was great.
Now, you played your big hit at that time, Along Comes Mary. It was your second song in the set, and I'm sure everyone asks you about this, but there has long been this rumor, probably started by the same DJ who invented the term sunshine pop, that the song was code for a joint, for marijuana.
I think it could have been very, very easily. I know when we first heard it, we had no idea. We just thought it was a great tune. Jules, our lead guitarist, Jules Alexander, brought it to the group house after the session he had just worked on. And he played this for me. Me and Jim were the only ones there at the time. And he put the record on, and we went, "Holy moly, what a song!" So the next day we played it for the rest of the guys. They had the same reaction. It's the only song we never voted on. We just started doing.
Wow.
So I imagine it probably is about marijuana. I don't really know. I don't really care. But what I do like is that it's one of the greatest pieces of music that I've in the rock field, in the pop field, I've ever heard. One of the most original for sure. I remember there's a lot of people thought for sure it was about marijuana. So about half the stations in North America wouldn't play the record. And it was still a smash.
Right.
Like we had an agreement in the band. We were going for a top 40 record within 2 years. And the first record that hit the charts was that, I think it went to 6 or 7, was Along Comes Mary, so we were thrilled.
We're talking to Russ Giguere of the Association. His new book is called Along Comes the Association, and there are some harrowing stories in this book. We've talked about some funny stuff and some lighthearted stuff, but you guys faced some real danger on the road, including some racism aimed at Larry Ramos.
Yeah, I remember being at a party before a gig, and this guy looked over at Larry, and he's standing there right next to me, and he looks at me and says, "That China boy with you?"
Ugh.
And I said, "Yeah, he's my partner. Why?" And the guy never said anything, of course, because if he had, I'd take him out. Right. I mean, it was just that way. Well, there was a time when three of us were armed. I carried a .32 automatic, Brian carried a .45, and Jules carried a Subnose .38. Now, even some of the guys in the band didn't know that we had these weapons, that we carried these. You know, when I wrote it in the book and talked about it, one of the guys said to me, he said, "You guys had guns?" You know, because we didn't flash these words, but something was going to go down. We were going to come out on top. Now, this only happened for like 4, 5, 6 months, and we stopped packing. But it was a scary time.
Yeah.
People gave us misdirections. You know, we'd rent cars at the airport, then we'd go and he'd fill the cars up, get directions. If the guy didn't like the way you looked, he'd give you wrong directions.
God.
You know, we had that happen before. There's a story in the book. We knew the guy had given us wrong direction. He said, "Well, the first people we see in a yard or on a porch, we'll stop and ask them." So he saw these people on the porch, so he pulled over. I got out of the car, walked up on the porch. It was a bunch of kids playing our album on a portable record player. It was great. It was just great. We were thrilled and they were thrilled. Their parents gave us the correct directions, and we went on and did the gig. I wish I could remember exactly what school it was, but it was a college concert. You know.
Boy, I'll tell you, there are probably kids out there, their dream in life would be to be listening to the association and then have the group pull up in front of the house.
I tell you, it was a great coincidence. I just loved it. I've always loved it. People, you know, it almost doesn't sound real, but it is real. You know.
Now, let me ask you, the association are having hit after hit. You're playing big festivals. You have a lot of exposure. Things on the surface couldn't be better. And yet, in 1970, you leave the group. Why?
We're having a business meeting at a lawyer's office. Mm-hmm. So it was a lawyer and the guys in the band. And one of the guys says, "Russ, I don't think you should wear shorts on the plane, especially when we ride first class." I said, "What?" You know, I'm going, what does this have to do with anything? So anyway, we continued on, and then we were drawing up papers so that if any of us left, how much notice we were supposed to give and all that.
Right.
So I asked the lawyer, I said, "How much notice are we to give to the band if we decide to leave?" The guy said, 6 months. I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, you got my notice." And I got up and walked out. And that was I got back together with the band again in 1980. Well, we did that TV show.
Sure.
We did that TV show Then and Now. And then we got back. The band reformed in 1980. I played with them a little bit. I went on stage with them at the Troubadour for I think the last 2 songs of the set. When we played there with Judy Sill, it was great. It was a great gig. But I just went up and did a couple of songs with them, and I stayed friends with the band. But
yeah.
I just couldn't. You know, I think you should be having a good time. You should be grateful to be doing this for a living. You shouldn't be whining and moaning about someone wearing shorts on the plane. Come on, give me a break. It's a little minuscule, a little ridiculous.
You know what? It does remind me, though. It reminds me of a comment that John Lennon made when the Beatles were, doing "Let It Be," and he said that they were in each other's pockets. So he'd look over at Ringo and say, "It's you. It's because you've got the tambourine wrong that my life is going to hell."
Yeah, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I just couldn't. Yeah, it was just so stupid. I couldn't take it.
But of course, time heals all wounds, and now there's obviously iteration of the association that plays out. You're not a part of that.
No, I run the band.
Right.
But I retired from the band in 2013, I think in December. Mm-hmm. And the band is Jules Alexander is in the band, our original lead guitarist. Jim Yester, the guy who sang lead on Mary. Jordan Cole, Brian Cole, our original bass for his son. There's a guy named Paul Holland who's a great singer, great guitarist. Bruce Pictor, the drummer, who's been with us since 85. I think the first gig he played with us was Disney World.
Right.
Where I think we broke some records anyway. And See, who am I leaving out? Oh, yeah, Del Ramos, Larry's brother. Larry died about 5 or 6 years ago, and his brother's still with the band.
So now that you're still actively involved with the group but not on stage, now you can wear the shorts. I mean, now... after all these
I don't wear shorts anymore. I'm too old.
So before I let you go here, again, the book is called Along Comes the Association. It's out on Tuesday, March 10th.
Yeah, the 10th, I think.
And I want to close with Wendy. And I wanted to ask you about this song because Wendy, if I have this right, it originally was written about a guy, and then it became a girl?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I sang the lead on it, and I guarantee I never thought about a guy. Let me tell you a great story about Wendy.
Okay.
We were playing with an orchestra in Detroit. I think the Detroit Symphony. The conductor said, we're going to take a break. And so the big band, the orchestra, and our band took a break. And the guy said, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, of course. So he walked into the wings and he said, I studied conducting with Bernstein in New York. He said he would always meet us at the door, and as we came in, he would say hello and greet us and such and such. And this one morning, he just sat at his desk, and he had a record player, a portable record player, on his desk. And when everybody was seated, he opened the record player and put on Wendy. And played Wendy for his students. And when the record was done, he took the needle off and he said, now that is a perfect record. Wow, there you go. I was pretty thrilled. That's probably the greatest compliment I've ever received. Yeah. He was a big fan of the band. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it is wonderful. Yeah. I was always thrilled to be with the band. We did such good shows, and we had such a great following, and our fans were so wonderful. I love that live album. That's actually I talked about it on an interview, a couple of interviews ago. That actually was a live. That was one. We re-recorded, I think, 2 songs. There's something wrong with the pitch in the instruments, right? So we re-recorded all the other stuff. It's one take of one show. Wow, that's as we did it. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So, I'm glad you like it. That was produced, by the way, by Ray Pullman, one of the sure. Oh yeah, crew. The Wrecking Crew. Right. His son, Guy Pullman, who I've known since he was 8 years old. We're still good friends. I see him probably 3 or 4 times a week, and he's still he's a great piano player. Well, it's a wonderful record, and I like the association has a sense of humor on that. That oh yeah. It's like part. Yeah, that's a good album. That's a very good album. Yeah, I love that record. One of the best live albums I've ever heard. Yeah, and you would know, you were there. Well, yeah, Russ, thank you so much. My pleasure, and thanks for calling, Guy. I appreciate it. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Best of luck and great success with the book, and we hope to have you back on the air at some point in the future. Cool, Daddy-O. All right, bye-bye.